The story begins with the strongest knight on the continent, and as you can see, he's having a rough time. That's because Cecil already knew everything: his plan, the size of his army, his spies, and even the forces funding him in this battle. In the end, the so-called strongest knight is nothing more than a toy, completely played by our boy Cecil. Just a year ago, in Cecil's father's territory, Cecil is left gasping, wondering how he's even alive. Only moments earlier, he had lost his sword in combat against the strongest man on the continent, Aiden. Aiden had brutally stabbed and wounded the Mercenary King, then turned to Cecil and asked if he had any last words. Our boy simply said he regretted chasing revenge and told Aiden to kill him already. Aiden said he was not the true heir of Perdium and that he had left home after his sister's death. Cecil asked how he knew this from another kingdom. Aiden revealed that they had joined Duke Delphine's forces to destroy his family. Our hero was stunned to learn that someone else was involved in the downfall of Perdium besides the Duke. His regret grew heavier, but in the end, the strongest knight struck and cut off Cecil's head. Back in the present, Cecil holds his neck in shock, still intact, and realizes he is young again. When a dude enters his camp, he is met with a sword at his throat. But before our Mercenary King asks something, this guy sighs in relief. It is only his young master, Cecil. Instead of backing down, he even pushes Cecil aside, surprising him with his lack of fear. He then asks if Cecil has lost his mind, since he himself was about to lead the charge against the orcs. Our hero is stunned to hear about the orcs. He asks if the man really said he fell asleep after a tantrum. The man grabs his gear, tells him to do the same, and waits outside. Our boy doesn't understand a thing until the man explains they are heading back to Perdium territory. Those words strike him like his worst nightmare. He grabs the man's shoulder and asks if he really said Perdium, his family's land that was ruined. But when he looks outside, the estate is still standing. He remembers how it turned to ash, yet here it is untouched. The man warns that if his father hears such nonsense, he might disown him. Cecil pinches himself to check if it's a dream. That's when it hits him. He is young again, his home still stands, and he has returned to the past. As a child, he resented his family for their poverty. His immature behavior, born from inferiority, often caused trouble, and over time, his family began to avoid him. Eventually, he ran from home, unable to face the criticism. Years later, he became the Mercenary King. He survived countless battles, gained skills and reputation, and returned to his father's land to fix his mistakes. But when he arrived, the territory was already in ruins, and so he lost everything. Now in the present, it is all still here, his precious people. He snickers, thinking how ridiculous it is to be brought back to the past. He feels like singing, but it's too soon to celebrate. Then he recalls the guys said they were here to fight orcs. How could he forget this day? By nightfall, most soldiers of this expedition will die. Back then, he insisted on joining the force sent to chase a few orcs. Only 3 were reported, and he thought he could lead without issue. In truth, more than 24 appeared, wiping out nearly all due to his stubborn lead. The orcs had no strategy, so they could win if they prepared at once. The problem is, no one will listen to the spoiled brat they believe him to be. Suddenly, a watchtower is thrown aside like a toy, and a soldier shouts that orcs are attacking. The sudden assault disappoints our boy as the orcs unleash another brutal strike on his men. Commander Scoven orders a defensive formation, but one swing of an orc's sword brings him to a halt. Faced with so many enemies, he feels doomed. A soldier yells for the commander to watch out for another incoming orc, but before it can strike, someone leaps in, grabs Scoven, and pushes him back. It's Cecil, who meets the orc's attack head-on, slicing through with brute force. The orc's arm flies off and it drops dead, leaving everyone in shock. Our boy swings his sword, wishing he could use mana, then turns back to Scovan. Sweating nervously, the commander freezes as Cecil demands he hand over the right of command. Scovan finds it absurd to ask for command while soldiers are dying, and snaps that this isn't a game. Cecil's blood is boiling, but before he can come back with a smart remark, the orcs come charging in like a tidal wave. Scovan steps up, saying he'll take care of it since Cecil's got no experience. But Cecil's had it. He hurls his sword at the orcs, and bam, it sticks right in one's forehead. The orc drops like a sack of potatoes, and Scovan's just standing there, shaking. The whole horde turns right on our guy, but he doesn't bat an eye. He shouts out that in a fight, it's not about orders or experience, but about having the fighter's spirit. Then he launches into action, cutting down orcs with crazy speed. He leaps over soldiers and enemies like it's nothing, slamming his blade into another target while everyone else just watches. Jaws dropped. Now he's pumped, yelling at the orcs to come at him, promising to take them all out. Despite looking like he's running on fumes, he fights like a swordmaster, dodging just enough to stay ahead and landing strikes on every weak spot he sees. Scovan's questioning his own sanity because even with mana, he's never moved this fast. And this kid is slicing through monsters like it's a walk in the park. Our dude yells that he's just getting warmed up, which only makes the orcs angrier as they rush him, totally calling his bluff. The soldiers freak out seeing all those orcs ganging up on him, screaming for their commander while Scovan tries to wrap his head around what he's seeing. Amidst all this madness, our guy keeps sprinting toward the cliff with the whole horde on his tail, and that's when it finally clicks for Scovan. He orders the troops to raise their shields and stick close to Master Cecil. Meanwhile, our protagonist charges headfirst into the chaos. Thinking that if Scovan's actually a decent leader, there must be a bigger plan at play here. Our boy can feel his body ready to give out, every bone screaming for him to stop, but he throws a cocky grin like he's got everything under control. In his head, he's thinking this body is weak, I could collapse any second, but you all should be fine. As the orcs stampede toward him with the soldiers right behind them, he smirks and says, "Perfect!" before diving straight off the cliff. Skovan yells at the soldiers to shove the orcs over, and in no time, they push the whole horde into the abyss. The monsters tumble down one after another, their roars fading away, and the troops cheer like the battle's over. But Skovan isn't celebrating. He's shouting for him, who's still hanging onto his sword with shaky hands. When Cecil shoots him one last grin, Skovan reaches out and tells him to grab hold, but our boy lets the sword slip, falling back with, "My body won't move anymore." Skovan is shocked, screaming his name, while our hero's vision blurs into something surreal. He sees Elena sitting there like a memory that won't fade. She asks if their mom is gone, thanks him, then suddenly snaps, demanding to know why he's been acting so weird and calling him the worst. She grabs him, begging with everything in her voice for him to come with her. That desperate plea is the last thing he hears before his eyes fly open, and he realizes he's alive. He figures the soldiers must have caught him, but part of him wonders if Elena was just a dream. His whole body is on fire with pain, proof that he pushed it too far without mana, but at least the pain reminds him he's still breathing. Then he hears a voice, Belinda, his tutor, leaning over him. She tells him he's awake at last and scolds him for being reckless, insisting the soldiers could have handled the orcs without him. Before she can say more, he hugs her tight, and she asks what's gotten into him and if he's been stupid again. Our dude just says he's glad she's here. To him, Belinda has always been more than a teacher. She was his anchor, the one person who never left his side until the day Peridium territory burned and she disappeared. He never thought he'd see her again. When he mutters that they see each other every day, he knows it's the wrong thing to say, but the weight of what he's carrying pushes him forward. He tells her seriously that Peridium is in danger. She looks at him wide-eyed and asks how he could even know that. He blurts out that he died and came back, but she brushes it off, saying he nearly died to the orcs and that's it. When she warns that he's the one truly in danger, she just laughs it off, more worried that his injuries might make him miss the upcoming festival. Belinda reminds him that Elena has been waiting for it, and that it's the perfect chance to patch things up with her. The mention of the festival hits him hard. In his past life, he never cared about it, too broken from the expedition's failure to notice anything else. He asks when it's happening, and Belinda says it's about a week away. That one word chills him, a week. His chest tightens as the memory of Elena screaming, "I'm begging you, come with me!" crashes into him again. Someone knocks at the door calling his name, but he barely hears it. All he can think about is the truth that tears at his heart. In 1 week, Elena is going to die. Their boy rushes in and gives his sister a big hug, saying he missed her. She immediately pushes him away, looking at him like he's gross. Her voice gets serious as she asks if he really thinks she'll forgive him that easily, reminding him about the time he yelled at her. He feels a knot in his chest. He knows he hasn't exactly been the best brother in his past life. He mutters an apology, but she just brushes it off and jokes about him taking a hit to the head since she heard he got taken out by orcs. He snaps back that he actually beat them, but she calmly points out that he came home on a stretcher. Clenching his jaw, he realizes nothing has really changed with his family. Regret washes over him as he remembers the festival coming up next week. Last time he let his pride stop him from going with her, and that ended up being the last time he ever saw her. This time he promises himself he won't let the past repeat. A knock brings him back to reality as 2 soldiers walk in. She scolds them, but they say the servants need her to handle the festival supplies. Belinda adds it shows how short-staffed the house has become. Shocked at how things have gotten so bad, he offers to help, only to get laughed at for acting weird. At the festival grounds, he tries again, but she waves him off, insisting the best thing he can do is stay out of trouble. He agrees on the surface, but inside, he remembers her body wasn't found there, but in the slums. Someone must have drawn her there. If he wants to save her this time, he's got to dig into the castle's secrets. Just then, an old dude, Fergus, calls out, relieved to see him alive. He admits he's been worried, but his sister interrupts, asking Fergus to take her brother back. He grumbles to himself about his crappy reputation, but decides to use the upcoming week to quietly gather some intel. Before leaving, he asks if there's a training hall. Fergus is curious, so he says he wants to train. Inside the hall, our hero is amazed. He never had anything like this in his old life. With a slight smile, he tells Fergus to live long since dying really sucks. Fergus laughs, saying he talks like someone who's been through it all. He smirks, thinking he really did die once and come back. After hearing from Fergus about how tough things are in Perdium, he reflects on his past and realizes he really messed up. He saw everyone as enemies when he was just blind to the truth. He remembers how a week after Elena's death, someone else got the blame, kicking off a territorial war that destroyed House Perdium. It hits him that her death was the first domino, and this time he promises to stop it. Step 1. Get stronger and master mana. Most people can't even feel mana, but our dude trained with it on battlefields, pulling particles from the air and making them into a core. That alone made him strong. But what really pushed him to legendary levels was a technique he developed from half a magic tome, stacking extra mana cores onto the natural one humans are born with. It massively multiplied his power. Back then, he hit 5 cores, but right now, 3 feels like his max. He knows there's a catch, though. This move guzzles mana like crazy. It gave him insane bursts of power, but it also left him completely wiped out, which is how Aiden managed to beat him. Aiden only won because he overwhelmed our hero with knights when his mana was spent. One-on-one, he's confident he would have taken the win. Even so, he decides to stick with the shaky technique for now. He silently vows that next time, he'll flip the script, take Aiden down, and get rid of Duke Delphine along with anyone hiding behind him. A week flies by, and the festival finally kicks off. Our hero rolls up to the festival, and Elena spots him right away, totally surprised that he actually showed up. He tells her that everyone from Perdium deserves a good time, but she gives him a look and reminds him he's been acting way different lately, considering he never cared about this stuff before. He jokes back, bringing up the time she called their dad annoying and said he should hurry up and pass down his title. That makes her pause and say he almost feels like his old self again. In his head, he's realizing that the past week has really changed how people see him and is slowly messing with the future. He knows the overall story might still end up the same, but every little change he makes could be unpredictable, so he has to use his knowledge wisely and adapt as things unfold. While he's deep in thought, Elena yanks his hand and pulls him through the crowd, complaining that the festival is the same every year and wishing for something new. The day seems to be cruising, along without any big surprises, until one of their soldiers suggests checking out another neighborhood where something exciting is happening this year. Elena perks up at the idea, but warns that she'll totally blame him if it turns out to be a snooze fest. As they head out, he can't help but smirk, thinking it must have been those so-called friends who were behind his little betrayal in this side quest. Jamal and Philip, Elena's so-called god knights, were supposed to be her bodyguards, but as soon as the boy saw them, he figured out they were the ones causing all the trouble. They brought her to this spot, and Jamal was all like, "We've arrived," but Elena took one look around and was instantly grossed out, wondering how anyone could perform in such a filthy place. One soldier tried to calm her down, saying the setup would start soon, but the boy caught on to what was really going on. The whole street looked like a rundown alley, but it was full of obstacles blocking every exit. She was catching on really fast, telling the boy they had to get out of there, but the soldiers were in her way. Philip suggested they chill for a bit, which made her snap, saying they were acting really weird. That's when one soldier, way too hyped, let it slip that they landed a sweet deal. Before Elena could even wrap her head around it, some dude stepped out of the shadows to confirm the deal was done. The soldier bragged about bringing Lady Elena just like they promised, and Frank, who was with the guy, noticed the hero and asked if he was the Count's son. Without thinking, the soldier threw him in as part of the deal, saying they'd hand him over for free. Elena freaked out, yelling if they really thought they could get away with this, but Jamal just laughed and told her to worry about herself, admitting they were all tired of this miserable place and that they weren't the only ones looking to escape. That's when the protagonist snapped. He charged forward, catching everyone off guard, and his words hit as hard as his punches as he called them out for betraying him. Jamal tried to hold on to Elena, but the boy's strike was relentless and he took her down in seconds. Elena, totally shaken, grabbed onto him in shock while the guys standing around just froze. One of them whispered if this was really Count Perdium's son because they'd heard he was just some kid with no combat skills. Frank stared harder and realized that even though the boy looked clueless, he had just taken out 2 knights in no time, and his moves were packed with mana. Elena called out to him, asking what was happening, but he just told her to chill and rest. Frank jumped in, thanking him for basically doing their dirty work. When Frank pushed him about hiding his skills, the boy just shrugged it off and sized them up, noticing the guy in the middle was on a whole different level while the other 2 were barely worth his time. He asked whose orders they were following, but of course they didn't answer, so he knew they wouldn't spill anything and figured he needed to wrap this up quickly. Frank ordered his men to catch him alive and break every limb, but the boy tossed a firecracker to throw them off, sliced down one attacker and clashed with another. Frank tried sneaking in from behind, but the boy blocked him clean, leaving Frank shocked at how strong he was. Then he countered by slashing at Frank's leg, making him drop his tobacco. Frank jumped back into the fight, swinging hard, but they both ended up stunned. Frank at how this kid had such bizarre sword skills, and the boy at how Frank had survived a clean neck strike. The tension was crazy, and Frank hissed that this was where the boy's story was about to end. The fight kicks off with Frank looking totally rattled, just blabbing about how wild it is that this kid has such a crazy fighting style at his age, but he keeps insisting the kid can't take him down. He charges in hard, sword flashing, but the boy stands his ground, giving it everything he's got. The impact shakes the ground, and when Frank slams his sword down, he suddenly realizes his strike just hit harder than he expected. The boy steps forward, eyes cold, pointing out that he didn't realize back then that Elena's death wasn't just a fluke, it was Frank all along, and now he's gonna pay for it. He drops his 3rd core like it's no big deal, and Frank freaks out, yelling in disbelief about how the kid's even channeling mana like that. Before Frank can catch his breath, the boy's already on him, moving so fast Frank can't keep up. Mana blasts fly through the air, and when the boy lands a hit, Frank's sword shatters like it's nothing. Stumbling back, Frank can't shake the feeling that this kid's completely different now. The kid doesn't even flinch and asks if they should keep this going before throwing out the real question, who sent him? Inwardly, Frank is panicking, but swears he won't let it end like this. He unleashes his mana in a desperate move, firing it toward Elena. The boy notices instantly, calling him out for being cheap, and makes a deal? Answer the question, and maybe he won't use that sword anymore. His aura pins Frank down so hard he can't even twitch, and the boy points out that someone with Frank's skills should be able to heal himself, unless of course his core is already fried. The look on Frank's face says it all. He's rattled to the core. Frank feels his mana spiraling out of control, knowing one mistake could blow everything up. The boy just shrugs that off, saying only amateurs lose it like that, then lands a solid hit. Caught off guard, Frank lets slip that Count Desmond is the mastermind behind everything, planning to use this chaos to start a war with Perdium and drag other families into the mess. The boy presses on, asking if Elena's death was part of the plan. Frank flips out, saying this wasn't how it was supposed to go, but he gets called out. He's taken out plenty of people before, but now he's scared when it's his turn. Desperate, Frank yells that it's all over and nobody would trust a punk like him anyway. That's when the boy drops the real bomb. He already died once and came back, so this time it's gonna end differently. With that, he takes Frank down for good. After the fight, he looks at Elena, slams the sword into the ground, and vows he won't go down without a fight again. Inside a nearby room, his memories from his past life click into place. Another body had been found here, the Degrade family's kid and his knight, set up as Elena's killers to stir up war. He realizes the whole setup and decides to wipe away any evidence before it gets out. Carrying Elena on his shoulder, he walks away. The whole mission is a total disaster. They sent guards, knights, and even Frank, their so-called top guy, and still couldn't take down one girl. He tries to shift the blame onto our boy, but the boss isn't having it, calling him out for making excuses. Frank insists that Guy isn't normal and pleads for another chance. The boss gets angry, saying he already messed things up once, but then he drops a new plan, bring in Kane Loges. Kane's young, super strong, and our boy's cousin, making him the perfect bait. After some serious warnings, the boss finally agrees to let him try. Fast forward to the Perdium training hall. Our boy is out here pulling off these mana thread tricks, basically using energy like strings, even though his mana is running low. Fergus spots him and is like, wow, didn't know you had that in you. He also thanks him for saving Elena, but our hero just brushes it off and says they should grab a bite. A few days later, the festival gets canceled. People are furious. Merchants are losing money and rumors are flying everywhere. Elena keeps insisting that our boy saved her, but no one believes her. He stays quiet, thinking it's better that way. He knows he can't stop the war forever. If he wants to stand a chance, he needs his own army. Then things start to heat up. Crowds are yelling for compensation, blaming the nobles for hoarding cash while everyone else starves. Our protagonist tells Fergus to send troops, but most of them are busy rebuilding after the orc raid. Broke, out of options, and short on soldiers, he asks Belinda for money. She reminds him his allowance got cut for overspending, so he's left with nothing. Just when he's stressing out, a soldier bursts in saying the young master Kane wants to see him. Moments later, Kane shows up, casually takes out a soldier right in front of everyone, and locks eyes with our boy like, finally found you. Kane pulls up at the tavern, and our guy spots him right away. It's the Loge's heir, his old friend turned rival. Ricardo fills him in that they were there to deal with a ruckus and ran into Kane and his knight. Things got heated when the rumors about Ghislaine started flying, and Kane completely lost it. Later, some sketchy guy suggested they fake a duel to make it look like Ghislaine's accident, promising the Loge's family a big payday. Kane wasn't thrilled about taking out his own cousin, but the lure of power was too tempting, and he went along with it anyway. This guy can't shake off the memory of how Kane always treated him like a sidekick, loud and confident, adored by everyone while he got stuck with constant comparisons. Back then, he'd clean up Kane's messes and throw down his own cash to avoid getting in trouble, but now he's done being a doormat. He tells Kane to cough up 100 gold, fair and square, for everything he covered. Kane just laughs it off and says it's more like a friendship fee, cranking the number up to 1,000. That's when this guy snaps, calls out Kane's nonsense, and warns him that if he doesn't pay up, he'll throw hands. This time, he's not letting himself get pushed around. Kane starts running his mouth, calling him a parasite and saying he's only getting bold now because he's been too nice. He swings a punch, but the guy dodges it easily and fires back, catching everyone off guard. Kane blocks the next hit but goes down, and the crowd goes wild. No one ever thought someone would actually land a hit on him. The guy calls Kane out, saying he knows that block was real, and tells him to stop pretending. Kane jumps back up, acting like it's all part of the show, and uses the moment to hype up the crowd. He accuses the guy of attacking him just for wanting the truth and challenges him to a duel. The guy doesn't flinch. He throws the challenge right back, saying Kane disrespected him in front of everyone and even laid hands on his knight, tarnishing nobility's honor. Kane smirks, warning him he's digging his own grave, but the guy remains unfazed, turning to Ricardo and telling him to rally the protesting merchants at the castle gates, promising he'll turn their frustration into something profitable. The festival gets canceled out of nowhere, and the whole mood just crashes. Tourists are stuck with cash they can't spend, but then, boom, an announcement drops. A duel is on. Young Master Kane versus Duke Ghislaine. Everyone's hyped, shouting and throwing cash at Kane like he's a guaranteed win. The whole place turns into a betting scene overnight. Kane's not happy about it though. He's like, this is a duel, not some circus. He warns that he won't hold back even if he surrenders. But our guy doesn't flinch at all. He just says the crowd's fired up and it's time to get this show on the road. The announcer moans that no one's betting on the Duke, but then Sokvan steps in, betting on our hero, and his sister backs backs him up, which finally pushes Kane over the edge. No more stalling. Let's fight! They face off, and Kane reminds him he's older, so he should go first. But then he swings his sword like, come on, let's do this. Kane dashes in at wild speed, trying to land a hit, but Duke just parries it. The crowd is screaming Kane's name, convinced the Duke won't last a hit. Belinda's on the sidelines, freaking out, saying they've got to stop this before Kane gets wrecked. Blades are clashing, sparks are flying. Kane teases the Duke for always running away back in the day, but admits he's stronger now. Suddenly, Kane lands a serious hit that sends Duke flying. Everyone gasps, thinking it's over for him. But instead of crashing, he channels some mana into his legs, flips it around, and lands perfectly. Kane freezes for a sec, shocked that his rival can just bounce back like that. Duke calls him out, claiming Kane's sword skills are weak, and he only looked tough because people were scared when he flexed. He's like, let me show you what real skill looks like. Kane laughs it off, but before he knows it, Duke rolls in super fast, slams him hard, and stomps down on his sword, keeping it locked there. The crowd totally loses it. People are shouting that the Duke has leveled up big time. Elena smirks, saying she knew this was gonna happen. Kane checks his wound and realizes it's just a scratch. Too shallow. He's confused, wondering if the Duke held back on purpose. How can this so-called underdog be this good? Then Duke pulls a crazy move. He drops his sword and says the skill gap is way too big to make this fight fun. From here on, he's going barehanded. Kane is stunned, but the Duke doubles down, insisting this duel is gonna teach him a lesson, and his fists are all he needs. Kane struts in all cocky, telling the boy to show him what he's got. The boy's like, sure thing, but let's make it a little more interesting. No weapons for me. I'll go barehanded, and to spice it up, I'll toss in 2,000 gold, doubling the original bet. The crowd goes wild, and the announcer starts hyping it up, calling for fresh bets on this barehanded showdown. The boy stands his ground, looking calm as ever while Kane laughs, mocking him for not bringing a weapon. Kane decides to stick with his sword, which makes Belinda lose it, yelling that he's just being a coward. Kane lifts his blade, ready to attack, but the boy just smirks and says he'll have to knock some sense into him. Kane lunges in with strike after strike, but the boy dodges every single one of them. Then, out of nowhere, he lands a crushing blow right into Kane's chest. The hit's so powerful that blood sprays from Kane's mouth and he collapses, shocked and struggling to wrap his head around what just happened. Kane can't believe how his opponent moves with such skill. The crowd starts buzzing, whispering that this young lord might actually take the win. He urges Kane to get back up, saying he hasn't even started yet. Grinding his teeth, Kane makes another attack, but our guy grabs his arm, thinking about how this man used to bow his head without a fight and could never meet his eyes. Raising his sword, the boy strikes hard, landing blow after blow until Kane finally hits the ground. Holding him by the hair, he mocks Kane's family, recalling how Count Logis once helped Perdium when it was on the brink of collapse, all because of his friendship with the boy's father. He remembers Kane arguing against helping a failing land, saying it was like pouring water into a cracked bucket. But despite the protests, the Count stayed loyal, claiming that friendship alone was a good enough reason. With one last push, our hero declares that Kane's lesson is done. Bruised and shaken, Kane admits defeat. The crowd gasps, even the strange guy watching nearby. Then the crowd erupts, celebrating the hero as the victor, while his sister Elena cheers in excitement. The strange man storms over, furious that Kane gave up so easily, but our guy cuts him off. He announces to everyone that this dude will foot the bill for all the meat and drinks at the gathering. Shocked, the man protests, but our protagonist grabs his shoulder tightly and warns him that this is the price of losing. He jacks up the stakes further, demanding 2,000 gold on top of the original bet, and coldly reminds him of the consequences if he tries to bail. The next day, our hero is chilling in his room, staring at a chest of gold and thinking about how it could fund a mercenary company. The cash is huge, but he knows time's ticking and he can't wait around. Elena pops in, asking how he plans to use all that money. Before he can say anything, Belinda teases that it's probably for Lady Amelia's birthday. Elena chimes in that he fought so hard just to buy his fiancé something fancy. That catches him off guard. He's left thinking, wait, I have a fiancé? Dude suddenly pipes up, wait, I had a fiancé? Belinda just rolls her eyes, saying he's only acting clueless because he's embarrassed they peeked into his brain. Elena drops the name, Amelia from Rayford County. That rings a bell. He remembers her as the perfect noble, loved by everyone for being super kind and fair. But the future's got other plans. She's gonna ignite rebellion, earn the title Witch of the North, and team up with Delphine to take down Perdium. Then he shifts gears and asks when his dad's coming back. A week, they say. So he casually says he's heading to Rayford County. Belinda's like, dude, it's not even her birthday yet. He shrugs. He's not going for cake, he's going for cash. Cut to Rayford County. Amelia's out here barefoot, giving her shoes to a kid like it's no big deal. She says if anyone's gonna struggle on her land, it'll be her. Then she orders food and shelter for the poor, and the crowd basically starts worshiping her right then and there. Later in her garden, her aide, Burnif, praises her, saying the people love her now, and it'll help her in the whole succession thing. Instead of getting all mushy, she stomps on his foot and grills him about why he threw that duel. He explains he lost on purpose so no one would notice her too early. She shoots back that she didn't raise him to be weak, then switches to business. He says the merchant squads are really taking advantage of Perdium, grabbing money that was meant for rebuilding after the orc raids and picking up experienced soldiers who are leaving Perdium. Amelia thinks it's a great idea, but warns they need to keep up appearances as regular merchants until she's at full power. Then, news comes in. Young Lord Ghislaine from Perdium just showed up, claiming he wants to chat about the merchant squads. Amelia's annoyed, wondering why this guy is even here. In the reception hall, he greets her all relaxed. She snaps back, saying he barged in without giving a heads up and still hasn't figured out basic manners. He just smirks, saying since her birthday's around the corner, he thought he'd drop off her gift early. He casually mentions that he picked up some flowers from a merchant group earlier, praising their smell and saying he'd buy from them again. She asks for the name, and he remembers it's the Arctium Merchant Guild. She doesn't show much interest, declaring that now that she's received his gift, she'll take off. Before she can get up, he tells her to sit. The tone in his voice catches her off guard. This isn't the shy kid who used to stutter around her. He gets right to it, demanding 10,000 gold. She's stunned and asks if he really showed up out of the blue just to hit her up for that kind of cash, wondering if this is his dad's idea. He shrugs it off, saying his father has nothing to do with this, and besides, she clearly doesn't plan on marrying him anyway. He points to her knight, warning that if she ever wants to rule Rayford, she might pull it off. But if anyone finds out about her secret power building, it could ruin her chances in the brutal succession game. She warns him not to talk so recklessly, but he just smirks, assuring her he'll keep her secret, unless he leaves without a good payday. The tension heats up when Bernaf walks in, greeting the young lord. He knows this guy well, Amelia's loyal knight, a swordsman who could go toe-to-toe with the strongest around. He assesses the situation, and calmly states that if he dies here, war is bound to follow. She coldly replies that it would just be reported as some thug breaking in and getting killed by her knight. With a chilling command, she orders his execution. He narrows his eyes, realizing he has no choice but to get serious now. Even Bernaf shoots our protagonist a fierce glare, but he's on his game, ready for anything. Suddenly, someone lunges at him, aiming straight for his chair. He flips forward, kicks the attacker in the chest, and shoves the chair right back at them. He calls them out for pretending to be polite when they clearly set up an ambush, basically saying House Leipold doesn't know the first thing about honor. The knight fires back, saying he was rude, and their swords clash as he accuses him of showing up uninvited and making their lady uncomfortable. Then he charges at our guy with full force. Our hero dodges swiftly, rolling and flipping until he's back on his feet. The knight's a bit taken aback. He thought Cecil was just some arrogant brat with no real skills, but the kid clearly knows what he's doing. Amelia, losing her patience, tells him to wrap it up already. Cecil throws some sass back, asking if the knight thinks he can boss him around, but the knight isn't bothered. He leans in lower and picks up the pace, forcing our guy to fight with everything he's got. The knight makes a speedy swing with his sword, and our boy barely saves himself by bending back. He glares at him and starts swinging his sword like a maniac. Amelia watches, stunned, realizing that the spoiled heir she knew is actually holding his own against Bernaf. Swords clash fast, screeching against each other. Our dude almost lands a cut, even grabbing at the knight's sleeve, but Bernaf slips away and counters with quick strikes and a brutal kick that sends Cecil sprawling. He jumps back up, ready to attack, but the knight grabs him by the neck and slams him to the ground. Cecil coughs, and the knight comes at him again. Our boy manages to dodge the sword but gets kicked hard. He rolls up and stands back up like a superhero, suddenly realizing the knight's using mana to power through his hits. The knight smirks and says, Cecil's style looks like it's straight out of brawling with barbarians, definitely not any kind of formal training. Sure, that might get you somewhere in chaotic fights, but not against him. Our guy knows this match is way out of his league, but he doesn't have time to back down. All of a sudden, he charges in, unleashing a slick trick that catches Bernaf by surprise. His blade almost comes down on him, and he follows up with a brutal kick to the face. Bernaf stumbles back, bleeding and stunned by what just hit him. Amelia yells for her knight, while our hero dives back in for more. Bernaf blocks the next strike, and dead serious now tells his girl to get out of here because he can't keep her safe if she's close. Our guy can't help but grin. This is the kind of battle he's been itching for. Amelia storms out of the room, fuming. How could Cecil embarrass me like that? Someone must have spilled the beans. No way he figured all that out by himself. She thinks about the rumors, him taking down orcs, saving his sister from an assassin, even beating the heir of House Loges. She always rolled her eyes at those stories, thinking it was just luck or hype, but now she's starting to wonder. The moment she steps outside, her heart drops. All her knights are lying dead, and there's this woman standing there, smiling like it's no big deal. Amelia freezes when she sees who it is. Before she can react, the woman closes in, presses a knife to her throat, and hisses for her to shut up. With a smug grin, she brings up that old spider stunt of Amelia's, how she got her revenge by raising spiders of her own. The woman laughs, saying the whole thing never really suited her, and tells Amelia to do exactly what she says. Meanwhile, Cecil picks up on the shift in mana and locks eyes with a knight who's staring daggers at him. The knight spits that Cecil is a disgrace to nobility and charges him without holding back. Swords clash in quick succession, sparks flying everywhere. Bernaf glares and rushes in fast, striking one after another, but Cecil manages to block just as the blade swishes dangerously close to his neck. The swords clang against each other. He lifts his sword and charges at Bernaf, who claims this is the end for him. Bernaf barely catches Cecil with a strike, leaving a cut on his shoulder shoulder, but Cecil counters just as fiercely, realizing the knight's going all out. The knight taunts him, saying there's a big difference between a real fighter and some spoiled brat playing with swords. Then he kicks Cecil, sending him backward. His attacks are relentless, sharp, and constant, like his blade is glued to Cecil's. Cecil knows he can't win like this, but instead of freaking out, he smirks. Yeah, this is actually kind of fun. He stands his ground, glaring, and suddenly makes a quick move, unleashing his third core. The swords clash, and his energy surges, flipping the fight in an instant. With one clean strike, he knocks the knight's sword away and pins his own blade to the guy's forehead. Amelia starts freaking out and shouts that he can take 10 grand if he just walks away. Cecil, with a chill smile, lowers his sword and tells her she should have gone for it when he asked all nice. She tries to brush it off like it's just a couple arguing, but he's not having any of that. With a casual shrug, he ups the stakes, 20 grand or else. Guards suddenly drop dead, and Burnaf freaks out. He's thinking, Cecile's on a whole different level. He's pumping out mana like a pro knight. Amelia's face scrunches up. She realizes that Cecile just leveled up. The knight says, "Should we tell Duke Delphine?" And she smacks him right across the face. Seriously? If this gets out, the Duke will have our heads. She admits she only teamed up with him without her dad knowing because he promised to fund her secret rebellion against House Perdium if she helped take them down. If anyone finds this out, her own siblings would end her, and if Cecile figures out the link to the Actium company, her whole deal with the Duke will be ruined. Bottom line, Cecile's got to go. Burnaf mentions that Cecile's pretty messed up with a shoulder wound, but warns them they can't involve Leopold Knights without leaving a trace. Amelia snaps back, "That's why I've trained my own crew." Then she pulls out her secret weapon, the Wild Cats, a rowdy bunch of war orphans and misfits loaded up on mana. She orders them to ambush Cecile at the gorge, the only sneaky route between Perdium and Leopold. Her voice drips with venom. "Cecile, you embarrassed me. You're dead." Meanwhile, Cecile's rolling out with his crew, trying to act cool even though he's hurting. Fergus checks in, but Cecile thinks, "I'm fine." Plus, that 20k gold from Amelia is gonna help us rebuild and give us some breathing room. Sure, he'd love to take her out too, but that would spark a war. And House Perdium is already busy dealing with barbarian trouble up north. For now, retreat's the plan. He'll use Amelia's Actium company secret as leverage. Belinda reminds him that she was supposed to grab Amelia as a hostage, but Cecile jumps in and says it was actually Fergus's job. Out of nowhere, his mana kinda glitches out, probably a side effect of that third core he's been messing with. Belinda grabs his hand and fixes it up, even though it hurts like a bitch. He realizes that only someone super strong could manage that. Who is this girl? Just a maid from some small town with that kind of power? It's a weird flex, but he's not complaining. Extra muscle on his side is definitely a win. She promises to stick by him no matter what, then hits him with a question. Why did he ask Amelia for so much cash? He just shrugs. She was basically his only rich option. She's totally thrown that he ditched his engagement for that. But he knows Amelia can't go running to her dad. When she presses him more, he finally spills the beans. He's planning to take back the monster forest. Fergus tries to throw a wrench in his plans, but Cecile switches gears and asks about that dude he told Fergus to track down. Fergus says they found him, but warns he looks half dead. Cecile doesn't care. As long as he's breathing, he'll do. They pull up to a rundown house. Belinda doubts anyone's actually living there, but Fergus insists that's the place. An old frail guy opens the door looking like he's 1 foot in the grave. He barks at them to leave. Belinda whispers that he looks more like a dying geezer than a fighter. Cecile just grins. Finally, the ex-captain of the Ratatosk mercenary group, Jillian. "Our guy's been dying to meet you, old man." Everyone's jaws hit the floor when the boy mentions the Ratatosk mercenary crew. That squad was basically legendary, masters of every weapon and feared by knights everywhere, even though they disbanded ages ago. Their leader? Jillian, of course. The boy steps up, making it clear he's here for business. The atmosphere shifts when this weird presence drifts toward his shoulder, putting everyone on high alert. The old man locks eyes with him, demanding to know what he wants. Belinda tells him to ease up, saying the guy's not in his right mind, but he doesn't budge. Instead, he drops heavy words like eternal punishment and claims he knows how to cure a so-called incurable disease. He lists the symptoms: sky-high fever, coughing up blood, skin breaking out in red petal-shaped marks, basically torturing people endlessly, which is why it's called eternal punishment. The old man freezes, panic all over his face, and yells for his daughter, Rachel. The girl's coughing gets worse, and he thinks to himself that there's still a chance. Back in the day, he had tried to recruit Ghislaine, but by then, the guy was already down and out after losing his daughter. Looking around the rundown house, it's clear he spent everything in search of a cure. All that's left are old weapons. Then the girl cries out, begging to just be allowed to die, and he realizes he can't waste another second. Belinda tries to stop him, saying even the priests call this sickness a curse from God, but he stands firm. He argues that he can save her, hands over a list of herbs, and explains that mercenaries rely on knowledge as much as skill. Eternal punishment might seem untouchable now, but it'll be easy to cure in the future since it's just a simple recipe, though it does need a crazy expensive ingredient, a fairy's blessing. He quickly goes over the recipe, whips up the potion, and hands the bottle to the old man, telling him to give it to his daughter. She drinks it, and everyone's stunned when the red blotches start to fade and her breathing eases up. The old man is shocked, pointing out that even divine power couldn't help. The boy explains that the medicine boosts the body's healing instead of directly attacking the disease, and with some time, she'll be fine. When pushed, he reassures them that she'll be okay in a month or two. Feeling overwhelmed, the old man claims he has nothing left to offer but himself, even suggesting he'd be willing to live as a slave. The boy immediately shuts that idea down and tells him that what he really needs is the warrior who used to lead the Ratatosk mercenaries. The old man peers at him, noticing the determination in his eyes, and then, unexpectedly, he chops off his own hair and tosses it to the ground as a vow. Everyone around is frozen in disbelief. He asks the boy if he has friends or foes, and the answer is both. He's got plenty of grudges now and even more on the way. Just then, an arrow tied to a rope comes flying out from the shadows. The old man catches it mid-air, pulls the attacker in, and demands to know who sent him. The boy mutters that he has a pretty good idea and reaches for his sword, but the old warrior doesn't hesitate. He snaps the enemy's neck right then and there. Belinda watches, stunned, realizing just how dangerous this guy really is, and wondering why the young master would choose him. The old man kneels down and pledges his loyalty, saying his life now belongs to Lord Cecil Perdium. The boy, secretly excited, realizes he just landed one of the most important allies for his mission to rebuild Perdium, and he can't wait to see what they'll achieve together. One of the wildcats rushes in, all panicked, and tells his boss that a scout just got taken out. The leader flips out, yelling how that's even possible when Sir Bernaf promised Cecil couldn't touch their guys. He starts wondering if the scout messed up or if the intel was just bad, then pieces it together. Jillian must have teamed up with Cecil. Grabbing another scout by the throat, he demands answers. The guy swears he saw it go down. The leader lets him go, muttering that Jillian's finally making a move again. Cut to the carriage. Belinda is groaning about the old dude hauling a mountain of weapons, saying he looks like a traveling shopkeeper, especially since they had to rent an extra cart just for his stash. The young master just shrugs, saying they needed the extra space for Rochelle, and those weapons are gonna save their butts later. Behind them, Fergus and Ricardo are riding close by, and he reminds everyone that the real priority is getting through the gorge. Belinda brings up the spy and guesses Lady Amelia sent him. He agrees, and she warns that things could get messy fast. The mask the spy wore marks him as a wildcat trafficker, basically a shadow guild involved in smuggling, hits, drugs, and human trade. They're built differently too, since a lot of them used to be mercenaries. When he asks how she knows all this, she says she picked it up before working at Perdium Castle. She stresses they need to be careful, but he just smirks and says they've got Jillian on their side. The carriage is flying down the path, but suddenly Jillian stiffens. He narrows his eyes and feels something's off, ready for whatever's coming. Out of nowhere, a huge blast goes off, and two scouts jump Jillian. He whips out his sword and starts swinging. Blades are clashing, sparks are flying, and the scouts keep coming at him non-stop. Jillian cracks his neck like it's no big deal, swings hard, and takes one of them down. The carriage is speeding like crazy, then suddenly screeches to a stop. Jillian's like, yep, this is a trap. The horse jerks hard, and boom, more explosions go off one after the other. Scouts surround the whole carriage, and their leader steps out, throwing shade. He calls Jillian the ex-boss of the Ratatosk mercenaries, the coward who ditched everything just for his daughter. Jillian plays it cool, saying he doesn't know what the guy is talking about, but the leader fires back, saying he's just pretending not to recognize him. Then he tells his squad to straight up kill Jillian. Our guy asks if Jillian wants backup, but Jillian smirks, saying he's got this. The scouts rush in, lining up, and Jillian goes full beast mode, slicing through them like it's nothing. One scout jumps at him, and their blades clash, but Jillian cuts him to pieces in an instant. The leader's shocked, realizing the old mercenary strength is still there. So he yells for his crew to split up and hit Jillian from both sides. Instead, Jillian hops on his horse, spins his sword like a blender, and charges right at them. As he gets closer, the spinning blade shreds through scouts like they're nothing. The survivors freak out and yell to aim for the horse. Blades fly, one hits the horse, and Jillian bends low but still takes another scout down. One sneaks up behind him, but he blocks with his shield. It's the leader himself. The leader is furious, saying Jillian ruined his life already, and he's gonna end things right here. Jillian shoves him back, but the horse finally collapses from its wounds, slamming into the dirt. Jillian gets up, whacks the leader with his shield, and says he's not the leader of the Ratatosk mercs anymore. The leader doesn't buy it, screaming that nobody else could be him. Jillian raises his weapon and says his mercenary days are over. He's just Lord Cecil's attendant now. The leader loses it, charges with his weapon, and screams one last word: die.
And hey, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Zucker Manhwa for more epic recaps coming your way.